Hello, everyone. Welcome into First Alert Weather Plus. It is Tuesday, August 26, 2025. First Alert Meteorologist Darius Mack here. We have beautiful skies out there. There's a live look at downtown Nashville this hour. Got some thin, wispy clouds, but otherwise mainly clear conditions is what we are looking at in store for the day today. So it's going to be a pretty beautiful day. Temperature still unseasonably cool. Right now we are in the 70s at 1 o'clock on a Tuesday. So this is really nice weather that we are, of course, dealing with so far. Now, today's topic is going to be about the drought that is ongoing across the Midstate. Of course, we've been following, or we've been seeing updates on of course, WSMB4, the latest drought monitor. So we're starting to see that, and it's even expanding across West Middle Tennessee as well. And so that is just going to be the topic of discussion for the day today. Let me see if I can pull up. There we go. There we go with some of the graphics here, and we can get that loaded here in just a moment. By the way, speaking of graphics, brand new graphics. These are pretty awesome. And yeah, really enjoying them. So as far as we go throughout the rest of the week, it's going to stay pretty dry for us for the most part. There's going to be some shower chances here and there, but most of the Mid-State still dealing, at least western sections of the Mid-State, still dealing with drought concerns. And so that happens when you have a lot of water withdrawal, and that doesn't match the amount of water that you're receiving. So of course, that's where you get the drought. And so it's typically measured by precip amounts, the deficits over a certain amount of time. And so pretty much over the course of the last few months, we just have not been picking up on much rain. And droughts can be hazardous. Not only are they hazardous, but they can be pretty unpredictable as well. And they can also aid in fueling the risk for fires to spread. And so wildfire season, forest fire season for fall starts October 15th here in Tennessee, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you can't see fires at any point of the year. So it can happen at any point. But here's the latest with the drought index, and we can actually take a closer look here. This was a year ago. And notice, let me punch this up in full screen actually. This was a year ago. Notice the Mid-State was actually dealing with drought in the area. So that was just a year ago. Let's compare that with just about 6 months ago. And notice areas in the western U.S. still dealing with drought. And so areas across the west are more, I guess, prone to dealing with drought and kind of more vulnerable to dealing with drought over the course of really a year. Because even a year going by, you see that the western U.S. that is still under a level of drought in those areas. So as far as Tennessee goes, this was just 3 months ago. Didn't really see much in the way of drought here, but that has picked up fairly recently because of the lack of rainfall that we've been getting. Let's talk a little bit about the current situation now. So this is the latest with the drought monitor, where you have dry, moderate, severe, extreme. No, we don't have any severe drought or extreme or exceptional drought happening here in the Mid-State, but you know, West Middle Tennessee, it's starting to get into moderate drought. So just abnormally dry conditions, and that's even spreading here into Davidson County, where it's just been abnormally dry as well. And so looking beyond, though, notice again the western United States still continuing to deal with drought there. That's where you'll find a lot of those wildfires that are going on. That's really not helping with that. Of course, they need some of that rain. So here's the latest with the fire detections across the United States. You go towards Montana there, towards Idaho, of course into California. There you go into the western sections, and it's also picking up on some activity that's going on across the south. Now here's the latest with fire detections, at least specifically for the Tennessee area. We got a few little fires, mostly controlled fires that are going on, so nothing of a serious threat with those fires. I do want to point out that is going on. But if you plan on doing any campfires, grilling out, doing any recreational burning, outdoor burning, that is, just keep in mind that you're going to be talking about the risk for fire to spread. Now, the risk is on the low end, but you want to use caution, especially when we are dealing with dry conditions. Check out the dew points currently into the 40s and 50s. I mean, these are pretty low dew points, not terribly low, but low enough to cause a little bit of some caution, especially when we got some of those winds right around 15 miles an hour upwards to that with some of those wind gusts. So it doesn't take much wind, and when you have dry air, it doesn't also take much wind for the fire to spread and to possibly spread uncontrollably. But I think with the way things are for today, it's more so of a low risk for wildfires, but it could increase if we continue to deal with the ongoing drought situation. That could actually increase for us, so that's something to keep in mind of. Check this out. This is video from Phoenix, Arizona. Now, they had a giant dust storm. Now, they've also are dealing with what is called a monsoon there, so they're getting in with that season where they're getting in with that period of rainfall. But you can get a lot of this dust, because it's such a light particle, it can be lofted up and suspended in the air from a nearby thunderstorm, and it can carry for miles. And it can actually be very dangerous, especially if you're caught in these, reducing visibility. Of course, with sand hitting, I mean, that's also just kind of not comfortable, can be very dangerous as well. I think there were reports of injuries with this as well, with that particular dust storm that was in Phoenix, Arizona. So yeah, just look at that kind of the image there. That's what they get again during monsoon season, is when they get the rain, and then of course a lot of that rain and wind is just going to really pick up and create a giant rolling cloud of dust. And there you see it there moving over downtown Phoenix and into the valley regions there. So interesting stuff. All right, let's talk about your 7-day forecast. We are going to pull this up in full screen. We're also going to take away the bug here at the bottom, just to give you guys a full look at that 7-day forecast for the Midstate. We are looking at temperatures today in the low 80s, upper 70s to low 80s, and then lows tonight dipping down into the 50s. There could be some outliers, especially in those valley areas, that could see some upper 40s for overnight lows tonight. And then we're back in the 80s, low 80s tomorrow, mainly sunny skies. Can't rule out a slight chance for a few showers. That's possible heading into the latter part of the weekend and into next week, but most of the forecast looks pretty dry. You'll notice temperatures into the middle and upper 80s by the weekend, but we're still running quite unseasonably cool. All right, well, that concludes today's edition of First Alert Weather Plus. Thanks for tuning in. This is First Alert meteorologist Darius Mack. Everybody be safe, take care, and enjoy the rest of your Tuesday. Enjoy this beautiful weather that we have going on.